I hope I was.
Now
So
you're back.
there, I honestly, sometimes I start a show and I forget to hit my hot mic. So I'm going to start over again and say, welcome to Links for the Rest of Us, episode 237. My name is Door to Door Geek, owner operator of podnuts.com. This episode is brought to you by Andre C. Thank you very much for your patronage. And if you want to continue to hear this show and all Podnuts shows with completely ads taken out, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/podnuts, and you too can help support the cause of ad free. I am joined as always by Bruce. How's everything going, man?
Boy, I'll tell you, Dor, struggling right out of the gate today. It seems like one thing after another, and this has been some kind of couple of weeks, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, not to mention this is the sickest time of the year, it seems, for everybody I know, and the time when there's the most let's just say heartache this time of year. It also seems to be the time of year where I also have my most amount of technical issues.
Well, to pile on there, we got a diagnosis on my dog the other day that she's got cancer of the spleen, so we're now on the clock with this one. I can't believe it. The animals are taking a beating in this house.
Well, yeah, and I will say that is one place I know Canada has better options than the United States, and that is pet healthcare up in Canduadia. I keep being told by people who live up there, their pets receive as good health care as they get, which I know down here in the U.S., everything pet related costs what seems like a fortune.
And not so surprising here. But we certainly have a lot of tech stuff that we can actually go over this week. There's a lot of interesting stories that have come across too as well. So, I guess we can just certainly jump right into it.
Would you rather do emails first? I say let's do emails first.
Emails first it is. I'll lead. Let me see. We had plenty that actually came up this week. So among them, first one comes from Brad regarding OpenZFS, Oracle ZFS, and Linus, or Linus, depending on how you want to go that route. So, hey, Dor and Bruce, we got asked a couple of us who uses ZFS in our opinions on an article about Linus saying don't use ZFS. Actually, interestingly enough, I'm not sure if that was actually what he said. I think the real response there was that he didn't recommend using it until Larry from Oracle decided to a drop, or at least get in writing that it was okay to work with that file system. But anyway, let's see. So first of all, ZOL and ZOF and all the other ZFs, Microsoft apparently is coming out with a port, and OS X has one, and they are using OpenZFS, which is not the same as Oracle's ZFS. They took the last open source Sun version and forked that. Oracle has since closed their ZFS implementation, so the code in Oracle's ZFS has diverged from the code of OpenZFS. And what's more, OpenZFS has many of the original Sun developers who invented ZFS for Sun, such as Matt Ahrens, working on the project. Secondly, OpenZFS is under the Sun CDDL license, which is an open source license. The GPL doesn't play nicely with it, in the same manner as they don't play nicely with the BSDs or MIT or Apache. Because GPL, especially version 3, is a vendor lock-in, as the best MS or Apple license, or I should say APL license, or Oracle for that matter. So not being a lawyer, I have to ask if a litigious Larry can sue a project like Linux or FreeBSD for using an open source project, which OpenZFS is. Let's see, what I would ideally like to see is for someone to put together OpenZFS Foundation. That should be an umbrella organization that could protect anyone from lawsuits. Again, not a lawyer. Also, regarding shared resource clusters, The concept has been around since the late 90s, and I remember in 98 and 99, Mosaic clusters were available. Basically, you had kernel modules that would run on all of your local machines and donate their spare cycles to anyone with extra load needing more computing power. Um, SETI at home and folding at home have been around for that length of time as well. That's a lot.
That is first off, I don't think there's ever been an email with as many ZFSs in it as we've seen right there. I'm pretty sure Brad set a record.
Well, and also, there's an old acting adage of red leather, yellow leather. Well, that's our Linux version of it. The short of it is that I think anything that the Oracle lawyers can go after, they leave nothing to chance. They could easily sue Linux. The lawyers get paid lots of money, and they're good at what they do, and they didn't make that money on chump change alone. So I think that really all Linus is trying to avoid are lawsuits, and until he can get Larry to sign off on the use of ZFS, why take that chance? They've got some other file developers. I mean, who can say that what the next generation of ext5 will look like should they enroll that in? Because like anything else, what makes a file system appealing in this case is the ability to back up and take snapshots. So I'm sure down the road that's being actively worked on. But I guess we'd actually have to ask, what's his name, Ted Cho, about that.
Exactly. Yeah. My whole thing is, first, I'll say, who needs ZFS? And the answer is nobody needs it. Some people might want it, but nobody needs it. And because nobody needs it, there's no reason to even start, to even introduce any opportunity to have any Oracle lawyers do anything, is the logic. It's like saying, well, you can dance with the snake if you do it right. Well, how about we don't dance with the snake at all? Just leave ZFS completely out. Nobody needs it. It does nothing spectacularly different that you can't do with other pieces of software or hardware or solutions, kind of thing. Yeah. And, and not to mention, you really can't get any use out of ZFS unless you have beginning 8 gigs of RAM in a box, which means, it's going to be a little bit intensive for anybody to use. And I'm more of a home person, a residential person, not an enterprise person. So I don't care if something is quote unquote good for the enterprise and not good for the home user. As far as I'm concerned, ZFS is pointless for a home user to even think about doing. But I know that's just me. And I will say, anything that doesn't play nice with the GPL, another tangent. I used to have a boss at work. Her name was Pat. She was gold. My rule was, anybody who doesn't like Pat, I don't like, because there's something wrong with you if you don't like Pat. I feel the same way about the GPL. If you don't like the GPL, well, there's not something wrong with the GPL. To me, there's something wrong with you.
Well said. I think the other part about it too that I'm kind of curious about is how much the average user actually uses snapshotting anyway. Because I know that even though there are a lot of options in Linux that are available to us, to tell you the truth, as an average user, I barely scratch the surface on it. That's kind of a terrible way of going about things. But I think once you've lost your data, you do other things to make sure that you don't lose it again. And one of those things is that I just simply don't have data on my machine worth keeping. If it dies, it dies. I don't play with a net anymore, so it's not such a big deal to me.
I agree. I'm a thrill seeker. I like to live dangerously. I don't test in test. I test in production, blah, 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 blah. And the real truth is, hard drives and hard drive space has become so cheap. Bandwidth in your place, wherever you're at, is also so cheap. There's no reason why you literally just can't mirror environments. Literally, if I'm down here working on my desktop, there's no reason why I can't mirror my hard drive upstairs downstairs at a friend's or somebody else's house, because all of it is just so uncommonly cheap. And to be honest, it's just as easy to manage that as it would be to say to myself, maybe I should take a ZFS snapshot right now. And either way, you're playing admin. And the real truth is 99.9999999% of people who use computers don't want to be an admin. They just want to consume content or write emails.
So, on that note, I'll actually segue on to the next one, which is from Mark. This was just one Windows program keeping him from totally moving. I have a Windows 7 machine and would love to totally switch to Mint until I learn more all the way. But I have one Windows program that I work in every day, and that doesn't want to convert to Wine. It seems to hang on the .NET install. Ah, yes. The program, Olive Tree Bible, has an older version exe that I have, and the current version that it is in, the current Windows Store. Of course, they've made many improvements to the current version, but I'm using the older version in Win 7 machine, and that's fine with me. I'm new to Linux, and I'm wondering if you would think there's any hope in getting that over from the dark side. I have reached out to Olive Tree, but they just come back with the old, we only support Windows and Mac verbiage. Can you make any suggestions or point me in the right direction? I don't want to give up on this.
Well, I'll say, like one option, and I think I'm going to hearken what you kind of say a lot here, Bruce. What I'll say is there's two things you can run. One of them is literally just run Windows 7 in a VM. The other, I'll say, snippet of code application you can run, which probably will take a little bit of tweaking. It's literally called Seamless RDP. And I believe with Seamless RDP, you can literally have an icon on your Linux desktop, okay, a custom created icon, of course, that when you double click that icon, it will launch the application in the Windows VM, yet present it to you in the Linux world like it's its own native application, but it will have all the Windows Chrome and Bling on it and literally be just like a windowed virtual application.
I think one of the best parts about this is that it is not uncommon for people to keep an older version of an OS on a VM. The only caveat here is that if you can, probably the best thing you could do, and it depends on, I don't know the program, so I'd have to look into it a little further, but if it doesn't really need to reach out to the internet, you're probably best shutting that off, because then you have a safe environment around that one program that will probably run as long as your computer runs, and that actually could be a win-win for you in the short term. So definitely something worth considering.
Yeah, and I'll say there is no shame in having a computer around running a single application that you need, kind of thing. And I'll say, to me, the real truth is, as long as you're not actively opening emails, email is the number one vector of infection on Windows computer. And as long as you're not browsing the internet on that computer, on that Windows 7 computer, there is literally no harm whatsoever to have it on your network, is my belief. Even in a VM or on your network, as long as you're not doing those two tasks, the likelihood of having something bad happen is uncommonly small. So even if you just have it in your corner of your house, running whatever program you need, I'd say don't stress, don't worry about it. And my logic is keep using Linux when you can, use Windows when you have to, and just keep looking for opportunities for other applications to overtake that in your workflow, because that's the whole thing. Switching from operating system to operating system, it's all about workflows, and can you accept this change in workflow to go over? It's not always something quick and easy, I'll say.
No, and excuse me, but and also, like I said, it's not uncommon to see a lot of that happen. In fact, a lot of us remember the Windows XP to 7 migration. In fact, I know we don't talk too much about enterprise, but I do know that there was an application that the vendor had long since disappeared, and the place I'm working with still needed to have that work. So the solution was we'll create a VM, we'll put that application in there, and we'll lock it off from the internet. And they managed to keep it going for a year until they found a proper vendor to switch over the program they needed. So that it will serve a purpose.
Yeah, and before we go to the last email, I'll say, yeah, here's my example at work. We have a vendor who's literally using Microsoft SQL Server 2005, and they said it would take months for them to upgrade their servers, which I don't understand how it can take months, but I digress. So instead of just being happy with it, what we're doing is we're taking the computer that needs an older version of stuff on it to communicate with that server. We're literally putting it in its own VLAN, and we're putting software firewall rules in place and VLAN firewall rules in place that are literally only allowing these like 2 or 3 explicit ports to come in and out. That's what you do when you have to run something in a secure environment, not your home environment, secure environment, where you have to run something that's completely out of date and insecure. You literally put it on its own island to where if something bad happens to it, it's not going to affect the rest of your network.
I want to go on a minor tangent before we move on to the next letter too. I don't know if you saw the article, but apparently the Free Software Foundation is urging Microsoft to make Windows 7 open source. How about that?
I want to say I saw a headline. I didn't click through and read it because I hate to say it. It's literally like somebody from the FSF is like hiding behind this curtain or something, or they're like on the other side of your camera and they're literally listening to our kind of conversation. I do think it's good for them to say that kind of thing, but at the same token, I'm pretty sure they can scream it as loud as they want. No one in Microsoft will ever hear any word coming out of their mouth. They listen to their customers more than I think any organizations that don't give them money.
Well, the best part about it is that, again, when you're trying to ask somebody something, it's always nice to remember your manners in this. I mean, if you really want something to happen and you're genuinely asking them, the best part I loved about the article was that it still gave them an opportunity to, ask for it in one hand and slap them in the face with the other by saying, yes, that way you can, reverse the last 10 years of poisoning the minds of our users. It's like, well, that's just not going to wash very far, is it?
Yeah, and I can see them opening the core and almost like the freemium kind of model, the open core like model that some software does, where the kernel will be completely open, but every layer on top of that will be completely closed, proprietary, DRM filled kind of thing. And the company themselves, Microsoft, will still be just fine, making boatloads of money. But it'll be on a more trusted kernel than ever before.
Well, and the one last note regarding that article was the big win for them in all of this was the fact that the calculator that can be found in Windows can be found on GitHub. And it's like, well, let's put it this way. If we've got Linux developers who can't create a calculator, we're really in trouble.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll take this email because it's really small and easy. And I'll say, I tried to reply to this email and I got a bounce back. So I'm sorry, Brian. Either one of us did something wrong, but it just says, saying hello, hi guys. I'm sending this simply to let you know that I listen regularly to your podcast and fully appreciate the time and effort put into these shows. Thank you, Brian from Scotland. Edinburgh, Scotland, which I love saying, Scotland.
Yes, and actually, there was 2 letters by one other person that you had sent along as well from Daniel. I don't know if you remember sending those along. Basically, Daniel's a blind user, and he's trying Fedora 31. And since he uses Orca, he doesn't need a monitor. But when the monitor is off, the computer does not want to work. Is there a way to tell Fedora not to bother with a monitor? Well, I think that's a question I could look into and we could answer next week. Unless, of course, you have the answer, Dor.
No, I don't have the answer, and I'm not going to lie. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I can't find the damn email.
Okay. Let's see. That was the last one you sent to me at 9:12.
Tonight?
Yep.
Well, damn. Then it makes it even worse that I can't find it because I'm the one that sent it to you.
All right. Oh, no, hold on. This one actually was sent directly to me. Oh, okay. Well, how about that?
Well, good. So I'm still incompetent. I'm just not that incompetent.
Well, you're in with like minds here. All right. Well, tell you what, since that came to us in a bizarre way, we'll answer that next week.
Very cool. Very cool. One of the lead things that really I want to talk about only because it's very self-serving, is Nextcloud. And I don't know who hasn't, I'll say, experienced Nextcloud, played with Nextcloud, but I know in my filter bubble existence, it seems like everyone has and everyone likes it kind of thing. But here's the thing. Nextcloud has actually, in some way or form, has been around now for over 6 years, I'm going to say, because it started as OwnCloud. Okay. Then OwnCloud had a lot of momentum, a lot of people join on, and I believe what happened was he took investment from some not angel investors, but some investors came along, and he lost some semblance of control or power over the product. So what happened was he still owned the core of it. So he basically just stood up one day and walked out of the office and said, "I'm taking my ball and going home." And the very next day, he started Nextcloud up. Okay. Since then, Nextcloud has clearly left OwnCloud in the dust in everything. Features, rate of updates, stability, popularity, everything, to where Nextcloud is now silly popular, and they're literally stepping up their game, and they're rebranding themselves as Nextcloud Hub, and they say that they're now going to openly and actively compete with Google Apps, the Google suite of apps, and Office 365, which I gotta say is an incredibly bold statement for anybody to say. I don't know if they actually can compete with those kinds of things, but I wish them luck.
As do I, because anytime you're offered another choice that isn't the big two, run with it. I don't think we've ever had more choices than that. I don't know. A lot of folks, I guess the beauty of Linux is that you can homebrew your own. That's always another option too. But again, I think somebody offering another service, like anything else, I'm excited. This is why I get into Linux, is because there are offerings to see things that normally you're not going to see in the regular ecosphere if you're stuck with one OS or the other.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, I'm pretty sure that you are not familiar with Mr. Robot, Bruce. But what I'm going to say is, here's another reason why I like Nextcloud so much. I'm going to show the live viewers my login screen to Nextcloud. And Nextcloud is so customizable, okay? And it's, to be honest, so easy to admin. It's like crazy. But I have my main login screen to Nextcloud with the Mr. Robot F Society mask and with a completely black background, which without hesitation, I stole from a good friend, Zoke. He showed me his login page, and I immediately said I have to find out how he did that, and now that's my login page, because that's how I feel about owning my own stuff like this with Nextcloud. It's my data. and I don't care what you, the government, other 3-letter agency or neighborhood, it is not yours, it's mine, and I'm going to do what I want with it when I please.
No, I love it. In fact, it's funny. I didn't realize that I dropped off after the second season because USA, I think it was showing it, was scheduling it in a weird way for us. So I dropped off, but I understand that this was the final season this year.
The second season was so difficult to get through. I have no problem saying that out loud. It took a special person to go get through it. But yes, this was the last season, and it ended maybe just as confusing as ever, to where closure really didn't happen the way anyone, I think, thought it would.
Yeah, well, and I also like the fact that there's that split personality part of the whole show, which added more questions to it as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. That and the fact that what is it in the first season when he's going up against one of the bigwigs at the company, the guy was saying, GNOME or KDE? Those are always good questions to ask during a show.
Yes, but if somebody would ask me in the public, I would reply with I3, to which I don't know. And if they knew what I was talking about, I'd feel better.
Very good.
One topic I did want to bring up here, Bruce, was we've off and on hinted around the edges around VPNs. And there was one link here in the notes that I plucked, is what I'll say, where it says Proton VPN goes open source to build trust in the environment, kind of thing. What I will say is when it comes to open source, it's not the final answer. It is almost like saying something is all natural. Being all natural doesn't mean it's great. It's just one factor to be taken, because while I want to eat natural, I surely don't want lead sprinkled on my salad. Being open source is definitely a plus, and and having a VPN go completely open source is definitely a plus. But what we need now is we need educated people, aka smarter than me, to do real third-party audits on the software itself and document where side channel attacks can happen, where logging can take place to make Proton even better, is my belief. Can happen. Whether it's going to happen or not, I don't know, but I like when companies and products decide it's in their best interest to go open.
Well, it also might be stereotypical too, but I'm probably even a little bit more trusting for the fact that it is coming from the Swiss.
Oh, yeah. Certain things I want to come from my country, like pizza, like beef, like cheeses, because then they're held to our federal standards of cleanliness and blah, 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 blah. When it comes to people focusing around privacy, I want them outside of the US. I don't want them in the US, because if they are in the US, then they're going to be subject to the FISA courts in the US, where the government at any point in time can say, you have to give us access and you cannot say a word about this or else you will be sued out of existence, kind of thing. So when it comes to privacy focused things, I want them to not be in the US, which I think some uber patriotic people really don't understand.
Yeah, what's interesting too is that there's also a telecom bill that also monitors just about everything coming in through the U.S. now, because what was it? In lieu of the bill, I believe back, this is probably right after the Patriot Act was enabled, sort of piggyback and followed along there. The United States became a major switch, which allowed them to monitor international phone calls. So, like anything else, I'm sure they have the ability to monitor international traffic, and they do.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak ill of them, because here's the whole belief. The truth. If I was in charge, if I had the power, like Hulk Hogan used to say, I got the power right there in my hand. If I had the power in my hand, I would be probably spying on everybody as well, because I want to make sure that there's nobody coming up behind me to kill me, kind of thing. So I'm not going to speak ill that it's happening, but I will say, not being that person, I'm going to do everything in my power to find ways to circumvent that kind of behavior, because there are certain things I want the government to know about me. You know what I mean? But there are also certain things that I want nobody to have readily available about me, at the same token, which is why I like having a Mattermost server, which is why I like having a Nextcloud server, which is why, honestly, I'm almost tempted to put up a BBS just because it's closed and it's my own little island of data.
So I'll tell you what. Here's what I'm willing to do. I'm actually going to look into this a little bit further, and as we'd mentioned before, I'm looking for a VPN client anyway. If this looks like something I can jump into with both my feet, I absolutely will, and report back into you guys just what I did, because like anything else, you want to be able to eat the dog food first before you move forward.
Well, and dog fooding is such an important thing, and it's amazing to me the number of people that legitimately do not understand what that word even means. If you're not willing to do something yourself, you should not feel comfortable telling somebody else to do it. If you don't listen to podcasts and you don't listen to your own podcast, why are you podcasting? Because you're not going to do anything better. You're not going to grow over time, right? Like that. Same thing with these kinds of software things. Most of the things that I bring to most of the shows that I do are things that I genuinely have tried to experience myself, at least somewhat. It is to some degree, or else I just clearly say all I'm doing here is just speculating.
So the question here, and actually I'm going to throw this out here because I'm actually interested in your opinion about this. So in use cases on VPN, it's not my reasoning for using it is not to hide anything as much as I want to be able to feel safe when, for example, I'm doing some banking, something like that. I'm still very wary of. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a business and they have, their little tablets hooked up to whatever that app is that takes your credit card. I got to tell you, when I see those things, I've always been tempted to put the card back in and just see if I had any cash to pay for it, because, again, you put so much trust that the business is doing right, and the business is probably doing the best that it can, but sometimes in this case, the best really isn't good enough.
Yeah, and I'll say, when it comes to VPNs, it's a tool. Depending on how you decide to utilize that tool depends on, which one is really the best one for you. Some people want to be able to be anywhere in the world on any open Wi-Fi, but yet have a secure connection back to their home. That's one perfectly good use case for a VPN. Some people want to be able to log in from their bedroom, but to appear to be coming from Germany so they can watch some sporting event, or they want to be able to come out in the UK to watch BBC. The other thing about VPNs is some of them can give you a bit of anonymity, privacy, but put a haze over your identity to some degree, which means it's almost like Tor in the sense of where your exit node is masking where you actually are at. So you can do things that maybe you shouldn't be able to do. Like, for instance, maybe the local sports team has a blackout. Yes, but they're playing the team from San Francisco, so let me go pretend like I'm in San Francisco so I can watch my own sporting event, kind of thing. There's tons of use cases for VPNs, and the amount of privacy you need on each use case is completely different. So it's a really difficult thing to say this is the best VPN for anything without being asked 20 questions back.
And for our NHL fans out there, if you decide to go to NHL.com while you're on these VPNs, depending on where it sees you on a particular day, for example, my friend did it. It looked like he was coming in from Russia. He had almost a 50% discount, so something worth pursuing.
Well, that's very good to know. Yes. And yeah, and it's like, almost like email. Like, what do you want to use it for is going to be the biggest, thing coming into the actual decision of what to use. And then I was going to ask you, since you asked me a bit, did I hear about the FSF news thing? Did you hear about the canonical stuff this week?
That I didn't.
Well, because I'll tell you right now, it confuses the hell out of me. If you go to anbox-cloud.io, anbox-cloud.io, basically, Canonical launched a new website/service. Okay, and and this is what it literally says on the website. Okay, Anbox Cloud is a mobile cloud computing platform that leverages Android as an engine for virtualizing mobile workloads. Anbox Cloud is highly scalable and offloads compute, storage, and energy intensive applications from devices to any cloud. Canonical will help build your custom platform and deploy your application to accelerate your time to market. Anbox Cloud comes with long-term commercial support offering. I read that marketing stuff and I'm literally thinking to myself, what in the hell is this even for?
Well, I know that you use your phone quite a bit, but do you do any work on it?
Well, I'll say this. It depends on how you define it, but there are certain work type tasks I can do and I do. I'll say on the phone screen size, there's only certain things you can do comfortably. The bigger the screen, the easier it is to do. And then when you introduce a full size keyboard, it's even easier to do things like that. Like I'll say right now, the keyboard I'm literally using for the show is my Zag Limitless keyboard here. It can connect to 3 different Bluetooth devices at the same time, and it literally has a little tray at the top for me to put my phone, so I can literally have it here and switch back and forth from my main rig that I'm on to my phone in a key, and I can literally type out emails and stuff like that, which I've done in the past. It's not my preferred way of doing things, but I have.
Wow, I feel like such a rube. I've got one of those old-fashioned Microsoft, what do they call those, ergonomic keyboards? And I think I'm what do you call it? The bee's knees. How about that?
Well, I for a while there, I was literally a keyboard junkie. The other one I have is a Logitech keyboard where it has like a knob here where you can easily just spin the knob and change from device to device. Again, 3 different devices. Again, you have the tray at the top where you can do it. The problem with this one is it is huge, thick, and it takes AA batteries, where the Zag is super thin and it uses micro USB internal charging, and it has a backlit keyboard, and the keyboard lasts for easy 12 hours.
How much did you pay for that?
The Zag Limitless, I want to say was less than $40 on sale. I want to say it was like 30 something dollars on sale. Normal price, I want to say was roughly $50, but it's the kind of thing, if you're not in a rush, you should be able to get it for, I want to say $33.
Wow, that's actually pretty good. I could see some other uses for things like that, especially given between the rigs that I have at home and the ones that I have at work, because I've actually got 3 workstations set up at work, and every once in a while, people just borrow things. So anyway, yeah, that would hugely be useful.
Well, and I'll say this: the Now, the truth is, any Bluetooth device that does not come with a dedicated dongle in it, okay, where you literally just use your normal Bluetooth antenna and you sync up, typically has no security on top of it. So if someone is literally sniffing your Bluetooth kind of signal and you type sensitive information or passwords, technically speaking, it's possible for them to be picked up and to be sniffed. Where if you have a Bluetooth keyboard, you open up the back and has a little dongle and you put it in a computer, those are most of the time encrypted. Neither of these come with a dongle, so these both are technically less secure, is what I'm going to say. At the same time, I personally feel like if there's somebody right outside my back door right here, Bluetooth sniffing my stuff for my passwords, well, congratulations, you won.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go off on that tangent. So going back, some other possible uses for this, because I'm trying. I'm not an Android, or I'm just not a phone user. Let's put it that way. So it's very rare that I would ever be able to take advantage of this prospect of using Nbox Cloud to, do my work on my phone. I mean, I mean, I can see possibly running Monitor, something like Logic Monitor, where, you would get a feed to your phone, but I don't think that would need Nbox for that.
Well, that's the whole thing. I have a really difficult time just figuring out what in the hell Canonical's offering, because it almost seems like what they're enabling is, and if I read it maybe right, they're offering the streaming of the Android operating system. So quite literally, you could be on any device, a smart device or a dumb device, whatever, and you could literally stream like almost like virtualize, like the old Wise terminals kind of thing, where it's almost like it looks like the OS is local, but it's actually coming from a canonical server. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I'm reading when I'm looking at that, but it is so confusing, and they did not make it clear whatsoever what any intent was with this thing. It's just filled with marketing buzzwords that every time I read, it just hurts my head.
Well, again, what I like about this, again, it may not be serving a purpose that maybe we get right away, but this goes back to a discussion we had a couple of weeks back in Canonical taking another chance and offering something different. So you know what? I'm giving them a pass on this, and whatever they're trying to do, maybe I can actually contact somebody over there to get a real explanation and see what the end game is for such a thing. Because, technology for the sake of technology doesn't make it okay, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Time will tell. And I'm sure, here's the thing: if people don't call you stupid, if people don't say you're going to fail, well, then you're not trying things dangerous enough. You're staying way too safe. Most people are not successful because they stay extremely safe. You know what I mean? Most people who are the most successful are the people who went out and tried things where people said, "What are you doing? Are you dumb? This ain't going to work. This is going to fail." But they went and tried it anyway. Maybe that's what this is. I'm not going to say it is. I'm not going to say it isn't. I'm just going to say, interesting.
Yep, check. Speaking of interesting, I saw also on one of your other articles that you put in there was about Shotcut, the open source video editor for all three OSs. And I'm intrigued by this one because, again, anything that can make video editing at home a little easier to do, I'm all about. I had so much hope for OpenShot when it turned into that Kickstarter project, but then quickly realized that would be the benchmark of all Kickstarter projects going forward, where there'd be lots of promises, the developer would drop out for a couple of years, come back, make up some excuse that inevitably meant they were sick, somebody died, something tragic happened, and now it's all starting all over again. So I'm hoping that this at least gives us a little chance at succeeding somewhere in video editing.
Well, something's going to have to be successful sooner or later is the logic. I just don't know when it's going to be, because we've seen it happen with audio players. We've seen it happen with text editors, where now LibreOffice is like frigging fantastic and it works marvelously. We've seen it with podcasting, downloading applications. We've seen it with all kinds of things, but with higher end video editors. I don't want to say high end video editors, because on the low end, we have, I think, really good solutions for video editing. But once you go to that mid tier, once you get up to the upper tiers of video editing, we have a mixed bag of editors, and none of them seem to do stuff perfectly. This one, I will say, it has a really good looking interface. If it's stable, that's going to be like 70% of the way to being good, is just being stable. And if it can get any kind of like momentum, if they can get momentum with this video editor, I really hope we're going to finally be able to say, if you need to do video editing on Linux, bang, here's what you need to run, instead of saying, well, you could run this, you could run that, you could run this, you could run that. Oh, and go watch tutorials for like 12 hours so you can learn the basic interface kind of thing. It needs to be a little bit simpler to the layman, but it also needs to be rock solid stable.
Oh, I agree. And, we're looking at this thing now from my vantage point of when I used to do videos for a local cable access in Somerville. One of the problems that we always ran into is that not only was the software at the time proprietary, but also the connections, because at the time, in order to feed video to your hard drive, you had to have like a 1394 wire. And I gotta tell you, one of the things I absolutely hated was the Sony camera that I had at the time. It shot nice, clear video, but the ports on those things were so wonky. After the 6th video shoot, that port broke. And I got to tell you, I was stuck with all this footage with nowhere to transfer. And the best part about it is on mini DV at the time. And what's worse, trying to find a mini DV player today is like $600-700 used. So anyway, bottom line is that was my big barrier and proprietary software. Kdenlive and other open source software is a little more forgiving, and if you actually have the digital files with you, that makes life so much easier. I don't think we're handcuffed anymore to just that one wire. In fact, I'm sure the standard has since changed. Most things have already moved to USB 3 or some form of USB-C. So anyway. That was a long-winded screed.
I'll say, yeah. USB-C has came incredible long way. Thunderbolt, USB 3, whatever. They've all came, I'll say, a long way. So long, in fact, Show Me, which isn't spelled anything like it sounds to us Americans, is like one of the biggest phone companies in China. Okay, but they're not just phones. Literally, they released today on eBay. You can go buy one, a electric razor. You know what I mean? It's literally $18, but it charges via USB-C, and I want everything in the world to use USB-C, and then I'll be happy. Then I'll be happier. As well, I'll say happier. I've used Kdenlive a bunch of times, and I'm not going to take anything away from Kdenlive, except to say it's the audacity of video editors. And what I mean by that is, you better save early and you better save often, because once in a while it will just completely take a dump, and like the application will just crash, and so gently that it just disappears from your screen.
Yeah, that's no joke. In fact, anybody in the earlier days of Audacity, and we're going back, roughly 10 years ago, oh, holy cow. There was, once your project got into the 20-30 minute range, there you were walking a tightrope, and it was kind of a race against time. And God forbid should you actually have had to actually merge two tracks, never mind just the dealing of the one. Oh, I gotta tell you, there are so many times I've almost wanted to type with my fists just based on the projects I've lost.
Yeah, and like that's one reason why now we're recording in 3 different places every podcast, because if one of them fails, I want a backup. The last thing I ever want to say to Bruce is, "Hey, Bruce, that was a really good show we did. How about we do it again?" Because I lost the audio. With KDN Live, I've learned, and with Audacity, when I learned, as soon as I open something up, as soon as I make any change, save. And then every like 3 minutes, save. And then 3 minutes, save. And then 3 minutes, save. Or else you're going to be a half an hour into something, it's going to crash, and you're literally just going to want to go upstairs, open a jar of peanut butter, get the biggest spoon you have, and just sit there and just mope.
Exactly. Oh, I got to tell you, there is nothing worse than losing those kind of projects too, because I can't tell you how much time has been lost to things like that. And it's interesting because we used to have a friend of the show, the Penguin producer, who could feel with us. I'm hoping he's not doing time, but it'd be nice to sort of reach out to see what he's doing for projects these days.
Yeah, I don't think he's doing time. I want to say last I heard he was in Southwest Arizona-esque, doing contract work down there. Wasn't extremely happy with the contract work, but he was getting paid, so he was happy enough. And then the impression I got was he was definitely busy with life, kind of thing, which is good. Busy's good in my opinion.
Yeah, well, at this point in my life, if there's one thing that I'm actually happy is that the busyness is falling off over time. So, maybe I get to actually dive in a little deeper to understand the things I'm actually talking about.
Gotcha. Now, one other link I definitely wanted to bring, and honestly, if someone hasn't figured it out by now, 90% of the links I bring to the show, so later I can simply go to podnuts.com, type Linux FO, and then space, and then what I'm looking for, so I can find this thing again, because I'm going to need it sooner or later. And this one is for work, Bruce. This is for work, not for home, aka this is for Windows world, not the Linux world. But on Windows, I've used in the past an application called BearGrep. BAREGREP. No, there's not going to be a link in the notes because it's a janky application. It works, but it's janky. This one is called DNGrep. And over at GHacks, DNGrep is an open source tool that can search for text inside documents. Okay. Long and the short of it. Everything in computers is characters, whether it's binary characters, whether it's binary blobs or encrypted, they're all characters stored on a hard disk, ones and zeros, crap like that. Okay. Because of that, it's possible to look inside of basically any file. Okay. Here's the for instance I'm going to use. We are introduced to a new application and we're told the person who developed this is dead. Can you figure out how it connects to the database? And then you say to yourself, okay, well, what's the database name? What's the server name? What's the IP address? Do we know what the username is? And then you take those things, you go to that server with this application, you point it at the hard drive, and you search for those pieces of text inside of every file on the computer. And you will start to begin to put the pieces together of how everything links together. Searching for file names is something you can do in any operating system natively, but looking inside of files seems to be a particular task is what I want to say. So this is the kind of application I always have in my Windows tool belt kind of thing to help try to make my job at least a little bit easier.
Yeah, especially now these days where I think when you look at all the possibilities of where your data could be at a job site, not to dive too far into it, but I mean, we've got everything. Can you imagine just trying to find a file in SharePoint? That's it.
I do.
Yeah, so there you go. We have knowledge bases, things like that. I got to tell you, one of the biggest applications in the country, enterprise levels, is something called ServiceNow. It's a ticketing application, and it comes with everything. It's one of those applications that claims it can do everything. Well, Yeah, I guess. But the fact of the matter is that a KB is only as good as the people maintaining it. If nobody's maintaining it, then guess what you have? A gigantic garbage can. And trying to find anything for that, I don't know how the search algorithms work on that. But if you're looking for directions to install VPN, it's amazing how many articles come back that are completely unrelated. So, anyway, anything that can give you an edge searching, that would be in your tool belt. That should be more than sufficient.
Yeah, and I will say, years ago, people started to at least admit that when you go to a job interview, you should be able to say, well, no, I don't know off the top of my head how to do that, but I would know how to find out how to do it by Googling it, kind of thing, or by doing searching for it. Well, the same exact tactic mindset can be done on the local network level as well, or a local computer kind of thing as well. It's all about troubleshooting skills and, like, how fast can you find a solution that's accurate. You know what I mean? Because there's a million people out there telling you how to fix everything, but you should be able to at least look at it and, like, look at it with a skeptical eye and say, is that right, is that wrong, and then know, like, to not paste into a Linux terminal rm-rf, you know what I mean, kind of thing. And granted, if you're like 16 years old and you're new to Linux, you might not know that. But if you have been in the job market for even a couple years, you should know you don't just blindly believe the first thing you find on the internet.
Oh, and I can't tell you how many times I've gone to countless boards, only to see that the solution was never actually applied. For example, it's common to go to. I've went to Linux Mint. I'm not going to single them out. It happens all boards. I was looking for an issue in regards to Audacity back in the Stone Age, and I saw somebody had solved the particular problem that I was having. So naturally, I was excited. I went in there, looked it up. The guy switched OSs, and that was the end of his solution. It's like, is that really a solution? Because it doesn't work for me.
Well, that's like saying, well, I want to lose weight, so I chopped my leg off. Technically, I like one, I lost weight.
Oh, there you go. All right. So, what else do we have up next up?
Well, honestly, one link I felt like I had to bring is what I'm going to say. Because, like, the very ending of this show, I always say, if you do not have root, you don't know who does. A lot of the Linux ecosystem is about ownership of data, and, like, being like the admin of the group to, keep control of everything and not just allow companies or anybody else to just do whatever they want to do. Okay. The Pine company is a mini computing company. Again, mini PC show, talk about them quite frequently. I got one of their newest laptops, thanks to Captain Zero, supporter pod nuts. Well, the Pine Phone Developer Edition just started coming out, and on their website, they basically said, we have to set the record straight about Pine Phone misconceptions. Okay. Long breath. The truth of it is most devices that have backdoors in them, either purposeful or accidental, when things are exploitable and the people didn't even know they were exploitable, it's because of binary blobs. Binary blobs are black boxes files, DLLs, EXEs kind of thing, where you don't exactly know what's going on inside them. You just know stuff comes in, stuff comes out, and stuff happens. The biggest example of that is on mobile devices. Almost every single one out there made for the last 7-8 years has had binary blobs in the GPU, the graphic processing unit. And the best example of this is the Raspberry Pi. It has a basic GPU on it that's completely binary blobbed out to where no one knows what's going on it. Every phone, the GPU has binary blobs. We have no idea what's going on about it. Even phones that classify themselves as secure have binary blobs on their GPUs that we have no idea what's going on. So they're not secure. They're lying right through their teeth, but it's marketing. That's what marketers do. Okay. The Pine phone is not filled with binary blobs. And that's one of the things they wanted to make very clear, because people have been saying since this phone was announced that it's not going to be secure. Well, I got good news for you, people. This guy literally goes through step by step and tells you exactly the chain of everything going on the phone, what has to be closed, and how they're basically isolating all that closed stuff, all those binary blobs off on their own. For instance, LTE antennas basically run their own operating system. Well, they're cordoned off. Okay, they have no access to the RAM. They have no access to the storage. They have no access to nothing. They just do their own thing. And basically everything in the Pine phone on the board from the system on the chip is in the mainline kernel. Okay, it's not black box. It isn't binary blobs, which means technically speaking, this phone has the potential to be, with the least amount of work, the most secure mobile computing device we've had available to us in the private market, the enterprise market, the government market, whatever, for at least 8 years.
I'm actually just going through all of this stuff now, and the section of where are the blobs, and it's amazing. I don't think I've ever seen such disclosure before. Um, it's clear. There's nothing. Nothing is being hidden here. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I, for example, I'm a horrible businessman. Horrible. Because I'm not going to go out of my way to be a salesman, aka lie to people, manipulate them to get money out of them, kind of thing, just because it serves me for what I believe is the greater good. I won't do it. I can't do it. So if I were to run my own business, I would be like scraping by. I would literally have to like swerve into a deer on the way home and hit it just so I could have dinner for the actual night. It's painfully obvious the people who are behind Pine are unbelievably community focused and unbelievably privacy focused and unbelievably free Libra focused kind of thing. They're not business focused. Okay. The phone's $150. If they were business focused, it would be a $2,000 device, kind of like, the Purism phone kind of thing. Which is why I like this company. They have no problem opening up their trench coat and showing you all of their warts and all of their beauty marks all at the same time, and let you, the end user, decide if this is something you want or not.
Yeah, and the best part about it is the closing statement. I do not think that this misconception arose online as a result of someone's ill intention or conspiracy. I really don't. I do, however, feel that if I were to leave this unanswered for much longer, these misconceptions would be further propagated. And we both know that once FUD gets out the door and it takes hold, you are now fighting a losing battle. So good for these folks.
Yeah, and I will say FUD is a real thing. For the uninitiated person, FUD stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's basically what mass media uses to propagate stories. The most dangerous thing you could eat, it could be in your freezer. More on that tonight at 11. That's fear, uncertainty, doubt, all wrapped into one kind of thing. And that's what a lot of institutions use to push messaging, and where these guys are basically coming out and trying to squash any fear, all uncertainty, and relinquish all doubt kind of thing, which again, if tomorrow I was a millionaire, a couple days later I wouldn't be a millionaire anymore. I'm pretty sure a chunk of change would go to the Pine people just to keep on doing what they're doing.
Absolutely. All right. Well, do you want to round things out about now?
Was there any other links that you saw that caught your eye, or any other news stories from this past week that you care to comment on?
Well, I didn't want to dive too much more into the Windows 7 thing from the Free Software Foundation, but I have to tell you, my knee-jerk reaction to it initially was, what are they doing? But, if they're going to, I guess they're trying to become a little bit more like the ACLU. You got to defend everything, and if you want to go down that road, good luck to you.
Wow, wow, and wow. Yes. And I used to say it like this. I'm happy RMS was around because it would show people what the extremes look like. Um, and we still do need people to scream at companies, whether they're screaming at IBM, they're screaming at HP, they're screaming at Oracle, they're screaming at Cisco, they're screaming at Microsoft, they're screaming at Apple, they're screaming at the U.S. government, whoever. It's good to have those kinds of people around. I don't think that really their impact is with the company themselves, but instead about drawing the attention of the third parties to say, hey, look at me yelling at this other person. Maybe you should too. Maybe that's their real goal and intent. And if it is, so be it. I wish them nothing but luck. I don't think Microsoft is going to do anything unless it directly benefits the shareholder, which is their only real obligation. So if someone can convince them opening the core of their operating system up will benefit the shareholders, then you betcha they're going to do it lightning fast and they're going to gloat about it. Kind of like a kid taking off his clothes and dancing around his house because he just got home from school from the first grade and he doesn't want to go back, kind of thing. The same kind of attitude prevails in shareholder meetings.
Oh, absolutely. Which ultimately, one of the things I'm going to segue that into the Linux Foundation and continue to ask the questions of what is it exactly you do here? Because again, a lot of these stories that we spoke about today have some facet of where they could be involved, and I very rarely see them. In fact, it's amazing for a foundation that has such a prominent stake in this. They're very, very low key to almost non-existent in ways. I mean, it seems to me right now what they do is they get this gigantic money from companies, oddly enough, like Oracle. Um, and again, what did they do with this? I mean, you got developers that are probably getting paid, but isn't it now time to sort of corral things in? Because I think at this point of where we are with a lot of computing, it is time for them to truly step up.
Yeah. The only thing I know that the Linux Foundation spends their money on is Gray Crow Hartman and Linus. I don't know anything else they spend their money on. It would be nice if they would like spend that money on buying patents and stuff and releasing them, buying copyrighted code and releasing it, kind of thing. It would be nice. And the thing is, maybe I'll say this. Maybe their lack of action and their lack of reaction is why they seem to get money from everybody, not just Oracle. They get money from the good guys and the bad guys and the people in the middle and from from the communists, the freedom fighters, terrorists. Everybody in the world seems to give them money and they just happily take it. And it's like maybe they're saving up to like buy that like island nation. I don't know.
I do know that their conferences are pretty elaborate, and I can't afford to go to any of them unless, of course, the company wants to pay for them. But again, there's still some more. It's come to a point where you start asking more questions than they have answers for, and you really got to wonder what is their direction. I mean, we do know that they have a president, but the president himself has admitted that he's no more the boss of Linus than he is the boss of his own wife. So, I mean, how does that work?
I don't know. And I don't even know who to ask. And I don't know if anybody would actually have a good answer to that question, Bruce. That's a really difficult question to answer. The only thing I know is they swear that they have no direct control over the future of Linux. Like, they don't tell people what to code for. They just accept patches or not.
Well, yeah, all right. Well, I'm going to leave that right there. We can let our listeners decide what they think of the foundation in general. Maybe they have some insight that we don't.
Oh, I'm sure there's lots of people who have more insight than we have. We're just two people. And because I mean, literally, we read emails from more people than just two people in this episode alone. And do not forget, if you want to send us an email, it's very easy. podcast at linuxfortherestofus.com, or you can just go to podnuts.com, click on the contact link, or you can hit us back on any of the networks where any of our names appear or the Podnuts name appears, and we will get back with you. You could also send us a voicemail at 707-6-PODNUT. Do you have any parting words or any sporting events that you're looking forward to here, Bruce?
Well, it'll be interesting to maybe catch a few minutes of the Super Bowl because we have two teams that, quite frankly, I didn't expect them to get there. So we'll dive into conspiracy theories in regards to Jimmy Garoppolo next week.
Gotcha. And I'll say, yeah, maybe Kansas City will finally replace Len Dawson, even though it's been 50 years and they've been trying to do it now for 50 years. I'm going to go over my sister-in-law's house because I'm pretty sure my mother-in-law, my wife want me to be the designated driver while they go watch the game. I'll offhandedly watch the game a little bit, but the thing is, nothing about it really interests me is what I'll say. Two teams I really could, I don't want to say care less about because that would mean I could care about them. I really don't care about them. I'm just going to be there for, the dip and some maybe pepperonis or something.
Well, I approve of that message.
Very cool. And again, if you want completely ad-free versions of this show, if you want to because everyone just sat through a whole bunch of ads because they didn't participate in the ad-free version of the show. But if you want the ad-free version of the show, that means you have to go to patreon.com/podnuts and become a supporter. I want to thank everyone for their support. Thank everyone for their emails. I've had some really cool emails this week is what I'm going to say. I'm actually happy to open my emails again. So thank you very much, everyone. I want to thank Bruce for his support. I want to thank everybody for contacting us in any shape, way, or form. And do not forget, under any circumstances, no matter what kind of computing device you have, whether it's a mini microcomputer that you literally load up your little operating system on, or whether it's a gigantic computer you have out at your work, if you do not have root on that thing, you do not know who does. And we'll talk to everyone again in about a week. And we are still streaming live, Bruce, just to let you know.
Oh, yeah, I won't drop any F-bombs here. But holy cow, that was, I don't know what happened this afternoon. I think probably next week when we jump on, I'll jump on a half an hour earlier because I can't attest for the audio on the stream. So I didn't see the dots disappeared once we started the show.
Yeah, I was doing the manual switching when I remembered to do it. Yeah, and I'll say it like this. Changing the software switches, it's like, man, stuff breaks all the time is what I'll say. Yeah. And in PAVU control, here's the other thing I do. You ready, Bruce? I almost forgot to tell you this. In PAVU control, okay, yeah, playback and recording are the two ones I always mention, but you are right. If you go into output devices and input devices, what you can do is all the way on the right side, it might be hard to tell what is pressed and what is depressed and what is not depressed, checked kind of thing. But that is default device, and only one of them can be checked on each one of those tabs. So on output devices, you take whatever is your headphones and you check that as your default device. And then input devices, same thing. You check that as your default input device before you load your browser, before you load Mumble, before you load anything. You make sure those defaults are set. And then whenever you load up Audacity or Mumble or Hangouts, it's always going to use those inputs and outputs unless you go and change it to say something else.
Okay. All right. That's exactly what I'll do next time.
Okay. And I will make sure I copy. I want to say there was at least, because you said one email, I want to say there was at least 2 more emails that I just could not find this week. Now, I don't know why. I think at least one of them, they sent it to Door to Door Geek, and I like didn't have time to find it.
Yeah, I think that's what threw me off when. So what is it? Daniel Crone sent 2 emails at 9 o'clock. So it's just like talk about getting it right under the wire.
Yeah, and one of them, the guy who sent the Bible one in sent 2 back to back. And the other one, the other one was a mini PC one, I think. That's what that one was. That was a mini PC question. Whew, man, my head is killing me. Man, the oldest is like hacking, coughing. My wife last night, I took her to like an immediate care kind of thing. She thinks she has the flu. My youngest just looks miserable. I've been like coughing off and on. Like, this is not a good time of year.
Well, hearing about what is it? The coronavirus?
Yeah,
what
coronavirus.
The hell?
Well, it's China. This is where I believe the avian flu, the swine flu, and SARS all came from over there. And here's what I didn't know. Mostly every severe, what's the word? Infectious disease came from direct contact with animals. Like avian flu was from birds, I believe turkeys. Swine flu, pigs. SARS, I want to say, was from a bat, and they believe corona was from a dog.
Wow. I stand in awe of China, and I don't fear them as a nation because you know what? They think so little of their own population, that if we actually were to go to war with them, I think they're okay with losing a couple billion people, you know? Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I just have the belief that the governments can feel like whatever they want to feel. Like most Americans, I think, don't care about China. And I think most people in China don't care about America. All they care about is, do I have food on my table? Can I talk to my friend? Can I reproduce with somebody else? And then, okay, that's about it.
Yeah, and that's only once in their lifetime, too. Do they still have that one child law?
I think they relinquished it starting because what happened was it was, put it this way, it turned out to be an incredibly sexist thing because in the one child thing, if you had one girl versus one guy in the China ecosystem, men were making money. So if you wanted to have a successful family, quite literally, if you found out what you were going to have was a girl, they would literally kill the baby, have an abortion or whatever, just get rid of it kind of thing, because they wanted a boy, because they wanted money. So then it turned out that literally something like in most major cities and towns in China, almost 70% of the people were men, and now there wasn't enough women to go around. So they're literally going to see a population decrease. And I want to say in 2002 or so is when they started to relinquish it, but they didn't make it official till like 2007, I think it was. But now they're like, well, you shouldn't have too many kids. So they're still like encouraging you not to go crazy about it kind of thing. But yeah, they've made some, let's just say, poor choices about that kind of thing.
Well, I look at also how, we talk about the environmental issues this country has. A friend of mine visited Beijing a couple of years ago. He was stunned to see at one point there was a boat ride up the Shanghai River, and there were 4 major chemical companies that had these gigantic pipes just dumping constantly into the largest river in the city. And it's just like, wow. I guess I'm just I'm impressed actually at the utter disregard for human life.
Well, and that's the thing. We here in America, it's good if people feel like they want to do more, like we should do better. Great, that's great. But in reality, we're already doing fantastic. I mean, we literally have right now in 2020 the cleanest water and air we've had in this country in like 100 years. It's like ridiculous.
Well, and again, we still have a lot of opportunity here too. People always talk about, oh, well, if I lost my job, I'll tell you what, if I lost my job tomorrow, I guarantee you I would find one the next day. It won't be the one I want, but it's the one I need.
The one I have today isn't the one I want.
Oh, the best part about it is that, what is it? One of these fast food chains announced that not only are they going to start paying their managers $100,000, there was a second company that came in and said, we're going to do it one better. We're going to pay our managers $160,000.
Damn. Yep. I have a good friend who lives right down the street from me. He worked at the same government institution I work at. He was a contractor. He was there for a decade, at least a decade. And they, let's just say, abruptly ended his contract literally a day before Christmas. Wow.
What are they, Al Davis?
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. We sat down last Friday, had some drinks, just BSing, and he just turned to me and said, I've had a lot of like things in my life, good and bad. I've had a lot of like ups and downs. And he said, when I was told that my contract's going to be let go, I really thought this is going to be one of those most horrible times of my life where it's going to be really hard. He said, I got 9 months of salary in the bank. I'm fine like that. But attitude wise, I thought I was going to be completely miserable. He said, I've never had so many people reach out to me and say, do you need a job? And he's like, I've never had more opportunity than I've ever had.
Oh, that's outstanding. I really believe that those are the kind of things that you and I would probably end up with too. If for whatever reason, if that hatchet would come tomorrow, I believe in my heart of hearts that there would be many people coming to our defense.
Well, and I know, without saying dumb, I know I'll be fine. And because like I'm a firm believer 80+% of everybody in the United States of America who has a job that's not a job but a career, I believe 80+% of those people got that job not because of their education, not because of their interviewee skills, not because of luck, because luck doesn't exist. It had to do with I had a friend, a family member, or somebody suggest I go there to get a job, and they pulled strings. You know what I mean? A friend or a family member.
Boston is the capital of a place like that, especially any of the main what do they call them, services, the MBTA, the waterworks here. In fact, the water department is probably one of the last bastions of nepotism, because it's just all family members, all related cousins, uncles, they all work there.
Right. And I mean, I understand you get your foot in the door by any means necessary, but then when you're there, then people help you get promotions and transfers and everything else kind of thing. I don't know anybody who literally like came out of nowhere and just got their dream job like right away. It always took strings to be pulled.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Well, I think at this point I'm probably going to jump off and sort my stuff out here. Let's see. Anything else going on for this week?
Not that I'm aware of, and I'll just ask if you could upload that file to either Google if you want. I didn't give you an access to my Nextcloud, did I?
No, but I shared out last week, so I figured, unless something breaks there, we can continue the pattern. It's no big deal.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, sir. I'm going to let you go, and hey, we'll circle back next week.
All right, man. Take it easy.
You too. Take care.
Okay, so let me start the actual editing process here. Might as well. That's what I get paid for. Oh, wait. I don't get paid for it. And I'm actually going to document the emails, too. They'll be in the notes. I know I haven't done great with that in the past, but, we can always work to get better. So let me come here. I'm tempted to put the Patreon people in the notes too. I think I should. least I do think I should. Let me see. I'm gonna leave that open. Some kind of animal market transfers people. Yeah. That was the thing, Jonas. There was a store in that major metropolitan city, huge city, where they literally would take animals, live animals, and sell them to people. And that's where they believe that the coronavirus started from. And I do think it was a dog, they said. To me, it's just amazing, like how that kind of stuff, I don't want to say happens because, it happens, but how it unknowingly happens kind of thing, which is kind of crazy. Also, there are plenty of people out there who believe that China is actually hiding the real numbers because they do not want to cause a complete panic, which of course is very easy to say that we don't know the real numbers because they could be right, they could be wrong, we don't know. It is the kind of thing that supposedly I heard today that they were in the process of building a emergency hospital where they believe it was going to hold 1,000 beds, where because China and their work ethic is what I'll say, supposedly they were going to have the complete hospital built in, was it like 3 days or 5 days, something insane, something where nobody in their right mind could think they could do it in that amount of time. Okay, so I'm gonna go to here, documents, public, audio, raw, convert. Let me copy over my file. And I'm going to start to at least post-produce my file. Hopefully by the time I'm done post-producing my file, Bruce will send me his file as well. So let me come here and say share screen. Bang, we're here. Let's come to output, make sure there's nothing there. Input, get rid of the mini PC show. We come here, we have 5. There's my file. We come over here. And let's first do this just because it's easier to read. And then let's do some quick editing. Wow. See, this is like one use case I'll say for dual monitors, to where I could have be editing on this screen and on my other monitor be like doing stuff like checking my emails, because that's the kind of thing I really shouldn't do. On the live stream, I forgot what the number was supposed to be. -18 is the peak limit dB. And the guy who told me that turns out is one of those like hired gun audio engineers who he said, and I quote, he guarantees me, because I listen to 150 podcasts, he said, I guarantee you at least 10 of the podcasts you listen to, I edit. He's like a hired audio editor who can really edit horrible sounding audio and make it sound good. That's why he gets paid good money. And he does do a podcast. It's very intermittent, very sporadic is what I'll say. It's only when he finds something really interesting to do. But yeah, he said -18 dB should always be your target. And I'll just say everything he's ever told me about audio, I take as being the gospel. Okay. Yep. Everything's good. So then exit, export, not exit, export. Come over here, ding. Yep. Okay. That's the one thing I will say I do like about doing Mumble. It does seem like to do my editing is much quicker and easier. Fix the video, fixed the video. Okay, let me see if got a link from Bruce yet. No, but I do see those 2 emails he said. One of them, I am trying Fedora 31 since I use Orica, the screen reader. I need no monitor. But when monitor is off, the computer does not want to work. Is there a way to tell Fedora to not bother with a monitor? Woo, that's not an easy answer. Okay. Next one, I think it might be the same guy. Let me see. Yes, I think it is. I'm totally blind Linux user with experience using Ubuntu Mate. I would like to get Linux Mint, I'm going to say, with Mate Desktop and try it. But when booting Mint and turning on screen reading program Orica, it comes on but then goes off. Others have had the same trouble. Why might makers of distribution fail to have accessibility in their live edition? How might one write to Mint? I use no Facebook nor Twitter. Well, it's the easy answer is because they don't have anybody in their project stream who is or needs accessible features. So they don't care. And I don't mean to be mean, but that's how every development stream is. If they don't have somebody who directly needs accessibility, then they never do it. Oh. So I'm going to guess that's not the right one. I'm going to guess this is the right one. I really hope it's the right one, Bruce. Okay, copy link. Paste. Download. Big money. I wish it would ask me where to download it to, instead of being stupid. Well, that was quick. Okay. Okay, let's come over to here again. Okay. This should now be in downloads. Let's say dang, dang, dang. Dang, dang, dang. 18th, January 18th? No, that's not it. There it is. So we delete that. Delete that. Copy. Paste. Copy. Paste. BRUCE. Good enough, right? BRUCE. I think he recorded wrong. In fact, I'm 99% sure he recorded wrong. Okay, cool. Okay, so now I'm going to download both of his files and try them both because I don't know. But this one says Mixdown. Typically, Mixdown is not the right file. Mixdown means both of them, both mine and his, are on both left and right channels, which means there's no isolation. And when there's no isolation, cannot really have really clean audio is the way that I put it. Okay, so here this one is. We're going to say Control C, Control V. And we're going to again say F2, copy, F2, paste, mix down. Okay, so we're going to close that, say no to the save. We're going to refresh. Okay, so we have, yes. So this and this, Control C, Control V. We do this, share screen. Okay, so we have these files here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename these in the same fashion to make them easier. To tip, play, stop, close. No, okay. Control F2. Backspace enter. Backspace enter. Okay. Just looking at the file sizes, 60, 76, and 30. This one actually might be the right file. I might be completely wrong. So let me see. There should be a healthy amount of gaps if this is the right file. But the time's not going to be exactly the same because I was literally recording, I would say 6 minutes before him. Which is the one bad thing. I'm wanting to use his local file. Okay, now, why is his not this? I'm going to guess is the Audacity file. Okay. Oh, yeah. See, that's not good. So let's just go like this right now and just say noise removal, get profile, Control A, noise removal. Okay. Let's let that do its thing. While let me come here. This was the one that I think is done wrong. Oh, hoping it's let me do that. Okay. Okay, so let me come here. Stop. Fix this yet again. There you go. Okay, so now let me see. Yes, over here. Mix down. I'll open that up over here. Then let me see. Yeah, that's the wrong audio. Yep, don't want to use that. Okay. So we're going to use the Audacity one, it looks like. This is not going to end up good. No, nope. Okay, Dyson compression, -18. Yeah. Maybe like this. Come here. I'm going to do the voice to text. Yeah, on one computer, it always remembers the settings and file name of what I'm doing in Mumble. New paragraph. On the other computer, it seems to always go back to some default settings, and every week I have to fix it. New paragraph. Two different computers, same exact version of the operating system, installing the software from the exact same place, yet it acts completely different on both computers, and I have no idea why. Yeah. On my main streaming rig, it always remembers all of the settings for Mumble. Multi-channel versus down mix, and OGG versus Wave. And on my computer where I'm physically here talking into, it never remembers anything. And no idea why. Not a clue why. But so every week I got to make sure that I fix that. And I've been honestly lucky with not messing it up, is what I'll say. And actually, I think I'm lying. I think my main streaming rig is literally running Ubuntu 14.04. And my laptop that I'm on here is actually running 18.04. So I think I lied to Bruce. I didn't mean to lie to Bruce. But I'm fairly confident I lied to him. Okay. So it was under an hour show, which is good. I like to keep them at least a touch shorter, is what I'll say. And wow, this is actually taking longer than I thought it was going to take to do this export. I figured this is only going to be like a 40-second to like a minute 20. It's like almost a full 2 minutes. I need more water. Oh my goodness. I need to do more laundry. I need to try to make sure I have most of the housework done before late tomorrow. Would be definitely preferred. 15 seconds. You can do it. Here we go. Two, one, done. So we're going to close. No. We're going to get rid of the mix down just because, if I don't get rid of it now, I might forget. Now we go into the actual, I can't remember the word. I always want to say mastering, but I don't think that's the right word, where we're basically taking all of these source files and we're laying them out like an editor of a magazine or a newspaper. So where I'm like arrangement. That's what it is. I'm arranging the audio because there's no actual editing in this step of the process. Okay, we're going to come here, put that there. Now this is not going to line up, so what we really should do is probably make the ends line up, and that will be close to what we need to where we should actually be. So we go like this. Okay. Actually, right here. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should not have moved the blue line, but I just did. So now the key is only move one of the files. Okay, so would not shock me to go back a little bit. Back a little bit more. Huh. Okay. So I think to drag that to here. And then let's let it load again. And let's see if, because this is just visually arranging my quiet times to his talking times and his quiet times to my talking times. And then we should be good. See, that looks just about perfect. Oh yeah, see, that's a good one right there. Okay, so that's all right. So let me take a look at the very end. So yeah, I believe this. Okay, so move that back to here, and we come back to the front. Okay, now let's put the marker down because here's where the original file does it. Now let's find where the actual audio starts. We come here, we just bounce around. Let me see. So I wasn't transmitting. I'm an idiot. Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah. So I'm going to start over again and say, okay, split, delete, click, drag. Back to the blue line, all the way back. And we are there, so now let's zoom in. Nice. And then to the blue line. Perfect. Okay. Now, let's come to the very end. Grab that. Arrangement. That's what it's called. It's arranging. Okay. Okay, that's right. So now we save. Let's check out some levels in the middle and say Okay, I think that sounded good. That looks right. That looks right. So now, and here's the biggest time killer. Here's the NTK, the network time killer of them all. So now let me come here and say stop sharing. Let me come back to here and say fix my video yet again. It's amazing how fast that messes up. Let me see how fast it messes up. Wow, that's pretty fast. Yeah. Oh, man. Quite orange. And then the background turns gray. Wow, that's ugly. Okay, so we're going to come here again. Lock the white balance. And now let me come here and see something. Okay. I think I'm going to kill the live stream and go refill my water. Because I like water a lot. All right. Thank you guys for coming out. Jonas, thank you very much for hanging. Hope everything's going good with you, man. I'm in between us, Jonas, if you're still here. Next Friday, I don't care if anybody shows up. I got to record something for the makers because it's been way too long, is what I'll say. Record something. Maybe I can like shame other people to actually staying and recording. All right, man, take it easy.